In the mountains of Joseon, far from the royal courts and the whispers of silk, a girl was born into a world that had no place for her. Her name was Seo Jin. She should have learned to sew, to bow, to speak softly. But her father, General Seo, had lost too much to let another person he loved be fragile. He taught her to hold a sword before a fan, to ride before she could braid her hair, and to fight before she ever dreamed. She dressed as a boy, spoke as one, and became what the world never allowed her to be, a free human. But freedom is dangerous, especially for a woman who forgets she's not supposed to have it. Fire crackling, night wind. Her father would say, "The world will not give you a seat, my daughter. So build one with your own hands." She never forgot those words. Years later, while hunting in the northern woods, Seo Jin heard cries echo through the trees. Hooves, screams, metal clashing. She followed the sound and saw a carriage under siege, bandits tearing through the royal banners. She leapt in without hesitation. Sword clashes. Short, precise breaths. The girl who was never meant to fight moved like wind through fire. When silence fell, only one woman stood trembling, a noble in silks, staring at her savior with disbelief. Princess Yeon-hwa. Who are you? Seo Jin. Someone who doesn't wait for permission to do what's right. That day changed two destinies. For the noblewoman was no ordinary lady. She was Princess Yeon-hwa of Joseon. The princess, impressed by Seo Jin's courage, brought her to the palace. She demanded her father grant Seo Jin a post as her royal guard. Whispers of disapproval. The ministers protested. A commoner, a stranger, perhaps even a man? But the princess only smiled. Then she is exactly what this palace needs. So Seo Jin entered the palace, hidden behind a guard's uniform and a quiet vow to serve. Only for a time. Training yard. Arrows flying. She was sharp, precise, unmoved by gossip. Until one day she met him. He was the Crown Prince Joon-seok. Regal, cold, and burdened by perfection. He saw in Seo Jin only arrogance. Joon-seok, a soldier who speaks out of turn, should remember her place. Seo Jin, then perhaps your highness should define it first. They despised each other, but the world has strange ways of binding opposites. They were both skilled hunters, both curious thinkers, and both tired of being what others demanded. Rivalry became respect. Respect turned to friendship, and friendship to something neither dared name. One spring night, the palace celebrated the Festival of Lanterns. The princess insisted Seo Jin attend, not as a guard, but as a woman. The warrior, dressed in soft silk, entered the courtyard. The crowd turned to look. The crown prince's laughter died mid-breath. Joon-seok, it's you. Seo Jin, do not look at me like that, your highness. In that gaze, duty fractured. For the first time, the crown prince felt what it was to want. Something forbidden. Whispers spread. A guard too close to the prince. A woman who dared to exist beyond her station. The queen summoned Seo Jin to the Hall of Virtue. Seo Jin, you were trained to obey. Instead, you tempted a future king. Seo Jin, I tempted no one. I only lived as I was taught, to stand my ground. Truth rarely saves. Seo Jin was stripped of her title and cast into a cell. But the princess spoke in her defense, revealing how Seo Jin once saved her life. King, release her quietly. Let her go where no one remembers her name. And so she left the capital, heartbroken, honor intact. Time moved on. Joon-seok obeyed his mother's will and took a bride of noble birth. He ruled with grace, but his heart lived elsewhere. His queen bore him a daughter, then closed her eyes forever. The bells of mourning rang for the royal court and for the love he buried long ago. Years later, his daughter, Princess Yeon-hwa, slipped out of the palace. Curiosity led her into danger. Bandits circled her, And as she screamed, a shadow fell from the trees. Blades flashed. The robbers scattered. The warriors stood still. "Princess, who are you?" "Seo Jin, someone who once swore to protect princesses." The king recognized the story that night and rode out at dawn. He found her in a small village, teaching girls to read and fight. Her hair was tied back, her hands still strong. "Seo Jin, your majesty." "Joon-seok, don't call me that. I am just Joon-seok, the man who never stopped waiting." "Seo Jin, you have a kingdom." "Joon-seok, I had a throne, but never peace." The silence between them was the loudest thing in the world. He stayed nearby, disguised as a traveler. They met by chance, sharing tea, laughter, memories. For the first time in years, Seo Jin allowed herself to smile without guilt. Love returned not in thunder, but in sunlight and simple days. "If you return to your rightful place, if you rule with the heart I once believed in, then I will come to you, not as a shadow, but as myself. Joon-seok, then I will make this kingdom worthy of you." And at dawn, beneath the falling petals, they parted with a promise stronger than any vow. One day, the Queen Mother and Princess Yeon-hwa visited Seo Jin's school. They saw the children learning to write their names. "Queen Mother, he has never smiled as he does when he speaks your name. If you ever loved him, come back. Not for the crown, but for him." Seo Jin bowed, silent tears in her eyes. She had built her dream, yet her heart still waited at the palace gates. When spring returned, banners waved across the capital. The king had changed the laws. Girls could study, women could serve. The kingdom called it the era of blossoms. And on that day, a woman in silver armor walked through the crowd. The people whispered, her name like a forgotten song, Seo Jin. Joon-seok, you kept your promise. Seo Jin, and you kept your word. They stood before the nation, not as ruler and subject, but as equals. Years later, beneath the same willow trees, Seo Jin taught her students how to wield wooden swords and write poetry. She told them, strength is not in the sword, but in knowing who you are. And in the distance, the king watched, older now, smiling. As cherry blossoms fell like blessings, he finally saw a kingdom where every child could rise. And so the girl who was never meant to be became the woman who changed a nation. Blades and blossoms, a love beyond titles.